So tonight we are talking about, there we go. Tonight we're talking about plugins. The title of the meetup was how plugins work, and I have slides from last year about plugins 101, which is just the very basics of what plugins are, and I think throughout the course of this we can adapt this to answer your questions and to anything that I didn't cover regarding how plugins work in general. The main point of a plugin in WordPress is to extend the core functionality for whatever you need it for. There are plugins that do a whole bunch of things and will drastically change how you experience WordPress as a whole. And there's some plugins that can just change the title of every single one of your posts to I Heart Cats. The options are limitless, and it is frankly quite inspiring how much you can do with WordPress plugins. I'm going to look up real quick. There are, in the plugin repository, currently available to you for free, 55,921 plugins. Almost 56,000 ways that you can add additional functionality to your WordPress site. And to me, that just takes the cake. So, what are plugins? I just went over that. Plugins should be easy to install. Like I said, they help you tailor your site to do exactly what you want it to do. There are free and paid options. There are freemium options where you can get the basic functionality for free, and if you need additional functionality, paid membership. There's a massive market in the plugin industry. And of all of the 56,000 plugins currently available for free at the WordPress repository, they are largely community driven, in that in order to be accepted by WordPress, they have to be open source, which is also absolutely fantastic. It means that anyone at any given time can find a bug in a plugin and go contact the developer with either their change or suggestion of the change. It's just open source. Open source is the bee's knees. We got a few more people rolling in. What are some common plugins? WooCommerce is a plugin because by nature, WordPress itself does not have an e-commerce solution built into core. So WooCommerce is an extension, a plugin that you can install to sell things on your site. Yoast SEO is an advanced SEO helper plugin, which really helps you narrow down and improve your site's SEO. Advanced custom forms is a way to, well, as it say, add custom forms to your content. Things like new sign-in options, or contact me, or fill out this form to request such and such. Really powerful, really powerful plugin. WordPress Supercache, WP Supercache, is another performance-minded plugin that really helps to, well, while WordPress core itself isn't slow, it also doesn't have baked in caching ability to the degree that plugins like WP Supercache can include. And then you have some kind of maintenance type plugins like Broken Link Checker, which will continuously scan your site and tell you if there are any links to posts that for whatever reason just aren't resolving. And there's also security-minded, very security-minded, like WordFence, that actually can create a firewall right in your WordPress site for you. So the range of plugins are just phenomenal. When apps started, I'm sure everyone remembers telling someone like, oh, I bet there's an app for that, I bet there's an app for that. That's kind of how I feel about plugins for WordPress. If there's something you're looking to do, there's likely already a plugin that does just that. All you got to do is search. And plugins are really straightforward and easy to find. So in wordpress.org/plugins, you can see all the plugins that you're looking for. Or in your own WordPress site, in the admin dashboard, if you go onto the left to plugins, add new, then you'll also see all of the available plugins for you. And you can download and install and activate those plugins straight from your administrative dashboard. The ease and simplicity of installing a plugin is what makes it such a viable and fastly growing industry inside of the WordPress ecosystem. So plugins are great, plugins are amazing, plugins are not 100% bulletproof. It is completely possible for a plugin to be terribly written and added to the WordPress repository or installed by some other means and it crash your site. It's not impossible, and it's one reason when you're looking for a plugin to fulfill a specific need to really take in consideration the reviews that it's getting, the reputation of the developer, the number of active installs that it's under, which can all be found in the in the admin dashboard where you install. So if we look at something like the Classic Editor or Jetpack by WordPress.com, these are reputable developers. They are, Automatic, the owners of WordPress, and they have very good ratings. But then you look at something like the Gutenberg. It's a terrible example, I know. But if you look at the Gutenberg plugin itself, which is a beta software, it has terrible reviews by comparison. So always be sure to know what you're getting into. Do your research. And also don't just look at stars, but look at how many people are actually using it. It is possible to have a 5-star reviewed plugin because you got 3 of your friends to go give you a 5-star review. So just take everything into consideration. It's also possible to find a diamond in the rough. Find someone who has built a plugin that just hasn't been adopted yet, that could be exactly what you're looking for. That's not impossible by any means, but just take your precautions, do your backups, try it not on your production site if you're really unsure of how this plugin is going to impact your site. Another way that a plugin could really mess up your site is if there's already another plugin or your theme offers the same functionality. If we take caching, for example, there's no benefit in having 3 different caching plugins. In fact, they more than likely will just be competing with each other and make your site performance even worse. 56,000 plugins means that there's a lot of competition in the same spheres. So if you ever see issues, a good place to check is, am I running duplicates of things? Is my WordPress host, also providing the same functionality at the server level, and maybe I don't even need this plugin. It's also not impossible for 2 plugins in their code to have the exact same method or function naming, which then PHP will start spitting out a lot of errors and bring your site down. That's becoming less common just based on prefixing and so on and so forth, but for a while it was a huge issue. If two Google Analytics plugins both had their main function of Google in it, you start seeing issues. There's also a chance of being locked into exactly what that plugin offers because of the way it behaves. And we'll go into a few more examples on that in a moment. And it's very, very smart for your production site to have a maintenance plan. The more plugins you have, the more updates you'll have to handle in the future. So let's jump into this. Code quality, as we're talking about, it can be all over the place. The majority of plugins do their best, majority of developers do their best, but not every developer is perfect. There's an air about WordPress that it's insecure, and it's always been the massive debate against that WordPress core itself is a very, very efficient and secure piece of software. But there's no guarantee that whatever plugins you have installed are opening up security vulnerabilities. And also, just to make sure that you're getting the best quality product representing you on your website, make sure that you're finding a plugin that has a very active developer. It's not impossible for someone to build a plugin, upload it, get some followers, and then decide to move on to something else. Maybe they don't even want to work in IT and they go open a restaurant. Well, now that plugin's just sitting there with no new updates. And as we all know, the internet moves fast, and so frequent updates are very valuable. As I was talking, duplicate functionality, multiple caching plugins don't help. Multiple backup plugins don't help. Come up with a plan. Come up with the features you need for your site, and then go find that one plugin that does it exactly how you want. The more the merrier is not true in the realm of plugins. Vendor lock-in. This one is it's a double-edged sword. I'm going to go out on the page builder aspect of, not going to throw them under the bus, but I'm going to talk about Divi for a moment. Divi is a fantastic piece of software. They're having lots of success. They're growing phenomenally. And I truly wish them all the luck in the world, all the best. But I do know that if someone builds a website with Divi, and one day they decide they want to go with Elementor or Beaver Builder, that means they're going to have to rebuild their entire site. There's the Divi way of doing things, and once you build with Divi, you're locked in to using Divi. And there's nothing wrong with it. If Divi is exactly what you need, then use Divi all day long. But it's also important to just be aware of what you're getting yourself into, so that, say, in a few months you want to try something else, you're not surprised that whenever you uninstall Divi, your site is going to crash and look terrible. And then I would also keep an eye out, again, not that they're bad, but just keep an eye out for plugins that claim to do 7, 8, 10 different things all in one, right? Security all in one, or performance all in one. And I say that just because there's more flexibility in having individual pieces of functionality handled by individual pieces of code, or plugins, individual plugins. It's a lot easier to troubleshoot, turn off, try a different solution with that specificity, as opposed to I have one plugin that is doing everything for me, and if one part of that breaks, then I have to turn off that plugin and I lose everything else that wasn't broken. So again, not that it's bad, but just something to be aware of. And lastly, if you have a strong maintenance plan, a way of knowing exactly what you're getting yourself into, exactly what you're using, what plugin for what feature, then as updates come rolling out, and they very, very frequently do, especially minor updates or security updates, then having a plan of how you approach updating things is very, very important. The overview of it is to always be able to back up your site or have a staging or local testing environment so that you can perform these updates not on your live production server. You can update one plugin at a time, and if you have listed out what plugin is responsible for what feature and how important that feature is, then it's easy to go make an update, check your site, and see if that update impacted that feature or not. And then also rating the importance of each of them. For example, if you have an e-commerce site with WooCommerce and you go to update WooCommerce and it breaks your site, it's probably very likely that you can't say, it's fine, I can live without it for a few days until the developers fix it. However, if you go and update a plugin that's showing social media icons at the bottom of your 3 different posts because you don't really have a blog, you have e-commerce, and then you make an update and that breaks, it's fine, I can disable that and not lose the core aspect of my website. And being able to know exactly what plugin impacts what features also really helps you alleviate the stress and being able to know if an unimportant thing breaks that you can disable it and it's not going to have a drastic impact. All right, we're going to move along. We're going to go through these recommendations pretty quickly. I don't have a lot to say about each of them, so I'm sure most of you have already read this first page. But they are, like I said, a good starting point. They're very prevalent in the WordPress community. So security, I will recommend first checking with your host, your WordPress host, to see what security functionality they already have baked into their platform. And if you need additional because they aren't offering it, then plugins like Akismet or WordFence are very, very good at what. Just a really good all-in-one package. I know it's not really all-in-one, but they handle a lot of aspects of common WordPress security issues. Comments. The WordPress comment system is good. There's also absolutely nothing wrong with offloading that service to a third-party provider, and Discuss is one of the leading comment software as a service providers. Do you need custom forms on your WordPress site? This isn't really an ad, but advanced custom forms, very helpful. Gravity forms, very commonly used. Ninja forms is another good one. For SEO, I cannot recommend Yoast SEO enough. They actively contribute back to the community. They are at the top of their game in what they offer. If your host does not provide its own backup solution, then Backup Buddy is a very, very popular option for that. Optimizations. Again, if your host isn't doing this, or if you're not behind a CDN, then plugins like Auto-Optimize or WP Super Cache, WPMU has a very good caching solution. There's some really, really big contenders in the ecosystem for making WordPress faster and faster and faster. WooCommerce is the most common e-commerce platform on WordPress, but it's not the only one. WooCommerce is very, very good at allowing you to sell tangible products like shirts or coffee mugs or something that you're going to be shipping. But if you're selling just digital copies of something, say an ebook or a PDF or just access to content, then there are other options such as easy digital downloads. Page builders. You might notice that Gutenberg is not on here, and that's because these slides were written before Gutenberg was released. The new built-in content editor, Gutenberg, is very powerful. I also know that down the road this year, they're going to make it even more powerful with full-site editing. Until then, though, Beaver Builder is one that I recommend. Beaver Builder allows you to drag and drop page build your site how you want it to look, but if you were to ever uninstall or delete Beaver Builder, your site will not go down. That's the direction they took. And then there's Elementor and Divi, which are the other two top contending page builders out there. But with those, you are locked into how they do things. And if you remove it, then you will lose the content of your site. And some resources here. These slides will be shared out both in Meetup and Slack. But